2022. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:30. We have a recommendation that West Elgin Council hereby adopts the agenda as presented. Mover and seconder, please. Rowe and Tellier, all in favor. And that is carried. Certainly a reminder to disclose any pecuniary interest. And I see none. First item up is quarter revision. Fleming and the Axford municipal drains. Who do we have on, Tom?
So, sir, we have to adjourn into the court of revision.
We have to adjourn into a quarter revision. Is that a different color?
Yes. So first I need the motion that council proceed into court of revision pursuant to section 46 of the Drainage Act.
Okay, mover and seconder, please. Moved by Cameron and Leatham. All in favor? That is carried.
Okay, so now we're on yellow. We're on the Fleming drain and Brandon Widener from Spreetz have joined us.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have a couple quarter revisions. First one's the Fleming drain. I don't believe there's been any appeals received.
We'll need
this
to.
Oh, so we're just going to call the meet. Hold on, Brandon. We're just going
to call the meeting to order, Brandon, and then we can go. So we'll call the meeting to order at
9:31.
Need to appoint a chairman. Do we need a motion for that?
Yep.
Mover and seconder for that.
So Bonnie moved it.
Bonnie moved it and Angela seconded it. All in favor? That is carried. We have a recommendation that the court of revision for the Fleming.
We're done. So at
Okay,
that
we're
point
done
now,
that.
Brandon, yes, no, we've had no written appeals submitted.
Well, if we've received no appeals, I guess I don't have much else to add. I can say this drain was mainly for a couple people, and I believe they're both on board.
So no late appeals.
No late, we've had no late appeals. There are no public on the meeting specific for that, so we can move along right into the decision.
Okay.
So the court of revision for the Fleming drain hereby approves the schedule of assessment for the Fleming municipal drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associates dated March 29th, 2022.
Mover and seconder for that recommendation, Cameron and Leatham, all in favor? That is carried.
So we're on to the court of revision for the Fleming drain closes at 9:32 a.m.
Mover and seconder. Tellier and Rowe, all in favor? That is carried.
Okay, we're on to blue, so which is the Axford drain, Brandon. So we're just gonna have to go through pointing a chair again. So we're
Okay.
calling the meeting to order at 9:33. I need to call, we need a chair.
Sure.
A motion for Don to chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded, all in favor? And that is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Axford drain written appeals, Madam Clerk.
We have received none. Brandon, did you want to speak to this? Are we making changes to the? Brandon, we're on Axford. Did you need to? Yeah.
So I guess here's what I'll say. From my understanding, there was a couple severances not included. We have not received them exactly to our office yet. Our suggestion as a firm is we will deal with them through a reapportionment, and we will send you an updated reapportionment, and we just proceed with this report as is. This report was mainly for maintenance. It's a new maintenance schedule. And I believe it's for maintenance work already completed. And then we will just provide you a new reapportionment. I believe there's a couple severances in the top end drain, and we will include that going forward. So then when the maintenance is billed out, they are included. We'll just do it as a section 65 reapportionment and leave this report as is.
Okay.
No late calls or late
There's
appeals?
no public on here for that meeting either, so we can move along if you have no questions.
And are there any landowners?
There are no landowners on the meeting. No.
Okay, and members have any comments? Okay,
So that
recommendation, Madam Clerk.
that the court of revision for the Axford drain hereby approve the schedule of assessments for the Axford municipal drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associate Engineering dated February 28th, 2022.
Mover and seconder, please. Latham and Tellier, all in favor? That is carried. Adjournment.
9:35 a.m.
Mover and seconder. Cameron and Rowe, all in favor? That is carried.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
Have a
Do
good
you have
morning.
anything to- Did you have anything to add, Tom?
Nope.
Okay. There you go.
So you're done. You're done.
Thank you. Have a good day all.
Thanks, coffee, Tom.
Microphone here. Thank you all.
You'd like to move up? Okay, what color are we going to now?
Back to white, sir. We're on to the delegation
All
from the
right.
Four Counties Health Services.
Okay, well, good morning to our friends from Four Counties Health Services. You do a wonderful job in our community, supporting, our hospital in Newbury, and, certainly, we're looking forward to, hearing you, this morning, and, Tom, our chairman, Tom Jeffries, Tom and I've known each other for a long time now.
Close to 30 years.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, so welcome, guys, and if you want to introduce your delegation.
Yep, okay. Thank you, West Elgin Council. It's a pleasure to be here this morning presenting on behalf of Four Counties Health Services Foundation. We are made up of a board, a variety of members, but with me this morning is our new person on board. We have just hired a fundraising coordinator, Jackie Benner Beatty. Jackie is really stepped in full swing and going full circle because there's a lot of stuff going on right now, beginning of our new fiscal year of the foundation. So anyways, and then we have our VP of Strategic Partnerships with us, Steph Foulette. Steph's been with us a number of years as well, and we appreciate all the work he does for the foundation. He's our watchdog with the hospital, so he keeps us in tune as to what's going on. And as things come about, we're there for him to help us out. Moving on to the presentation. This morning, we will be presenting to you
Technology has failed us.
Always works until it doesn't.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so our presentation this morning, I will be making a presentation on behalf of the foundation, and then Steph will present an update on the work at the hospital, and then we will just do a little conclusion to the process, okay? 2 years ago, we entered into a strategic plan, and I often wondered what strategic plans were all about, but boy, they are a very valuable instrument, and it was a very much of a learning experience for myself because I mean, we had a facilitator, but I was in charge with developing this process. So it took a lot of work, and with the support of staff and some of our board members, we were able to complete that. One of the things that I'm really proud of is our mission statement, and it seems to really resonate for our hospital, is to build relationships that support Four Counties Health Services by raising awareness of critical equipment needs and encourage community giving ownership through their giving. And that seems to really resonate with the residents as well of the community. The others are very important, and I think we try to develop trust, integrity, respect, accountability, and the most important thing is to work as a team. Our affairs are governed by a board of governors, overseen by a board consisting of 9 elected, and we're currently in the process of looking for 1 new member. So if any of you are interested in joining the board, we're more than happy to have you aboard. And then we have 4 ex officio governors. 1 is appointed by the MHA, 1 by Four Counties Health Services, 1 by their auxiliary, and then 1 by the Foundation of Strathroy Middlesex General Hospital as well. As I don't know whether all of you are aware of this, but the Ministry of Health does not fund purchases of hospital medical equipment, which is defined by Four Counties Health Services as any equipment over $3,000. So this means that anything over $3,000, we have to purchase for the hospital. And it's you, the people that do that. So we need to go out into the communities to raise awareness to this need. And most of it is donated through the generous support of municipalities, service clubs, and the general public who are reach out. To date, we have contributed over $8.774 million towards medical equipment purchases at Four Counties Hospitals. That was since our inception. And of course, this is our board that currently exists, the members that are there, and then the new members. This is our strategic plan that was developed, and we're working diligently on this. We've done a lot of the short-term stuff, and we're now into the 3-year term. We've just recruited our new fundraiser, and one of the biggest things that we're looking at now is developing a way of going out and telling our story in the community, making people more aware of what is needed at the hospitals, things that are going on there, and to keep everyone up to date on that. And as you know, quality healthcare requires state-of-the-art equipment. It allows the hospital to increase the number of procedures that can be done, and it also reduces wait times, and it keeps care close to home. One of the most important things is, I think, is reducing the wait times. I've been told by a lot of people that come in from other hospitals, boy, you guys get the job done quick and get us out. So we do, you know, we pride ourselves on that. It seems to be one of those things that we can do. So according to studies, this is one of the things that we've come across, is that when people are looking for a community to move into, they usually look for employment as their number one choice. And surprisingly, healthcare is their second choice. I think some years ago, maybe it might have been recreation and all those other things, but now healthcare has taken over. People want something that's close to home, so they want that again. And one of the most important things, hospitals impact the viability of rural communities. I think it makes us stronger as a rural community to have a hospital in our own community. A year ago, this was the equipment that we had to purchase. It was total was $336,000 that we had to raise in the year 21-22, and we were able to do that. Two of the items that were major on that list are the new ultrasound. I think you donated the last time we were over here to that project. Tammy was with us at that presentation, and we do appreciate her. She's been a great ambassador for that process. One of the other items that we entered into this year with the hospital of the Middlesex Health Alliance and the Canadian Medical Association was the development of what we call a negative pressure room. And Steph will talk a little more about that later, but it was one of those things that we needed for COVID and which will be used in the future for other purposes. And there's the new ultrasound in Tammy. So it was all done in April of this year. It was installed and up and running. So this year we're into our new appeal, $260,000, a little smaller than last year, but still a lot of vital equipment in there. One of the biggest items on there is the emergency department heart alerts. They're very expensive. They're about $12,000 a piece. So we're needing 9 of those, so $108,000. So quite a big investment. Also some beds, some infrastructure updates. And one thing that we do at Four Counties is we contribute every year to staff education. We put in $12,000 into our budget to help staff keep up to date with things, to know where they're going. And as you can see, this is one of the things that we done was the ultrasound or the digital imaging. And I believe your municipality was a part of that as well. And we appreciate all the support that come from our local municipalities in regards to this. And our last one was the endoscopy program that we took on after Dr. Eberhard left, and we entered into the new age, and it was a well-rounded appeal. I think it was one of my first appeal, and it was very nerve-wracking when you had to raise $450,000, but we got through it in I figured maybe 4 years doing it, and we were done in a year and a half. So we really appreciate all the community coming together on that one. And of course, this is the last time we were with you when Tammy was there. And to date, you have donated over $264,000 to Four Counties Health Services. And we do appreciate every dollar that comes to us. And we appreciate all your wonderful support. And that's my part of the presentation. I'll turn it back to Steph.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And good morning, Mayor, councilors. It's really a pleasure to be here today. Really appreciate your support. Just to piggyback off of Tom's earlier slide and really share my appreciation to the foundation. Without the foundation, we would not be able to have access to that clinical equipment, which helps us run the hospital and support our patients in the community. We'll run a video. This is a video that we collaborate with the County of Middlesex. It's about 90 seconds. I think it serves as a great foundation and platform for my upcoming slides. So maybe I'll ask Jana to roll tape.
Four Counties Health Services has a 24-hour day versus inpatient care.
In June.
Four Counties Health Services has a 24-hour day versus care, diagnostic services, and they provide initial care for patients or very sick medical patients. Having the teleport be very helpful. Forecast is developing itself as a health village where other services are offered here in addition to traditional health care. We have partnerships with a private lab, a wellness center, Southwest Ontario, Aboriginal Health Access Center. The fact that Four Counties provides closer to home without them having to travel. Basic items a little bit slower. This hospital very friendly atmosphere. We'll try to help you. Very much like a family.
Perfect. Thank you, Jana. So as you can see, we're really passionate about the work that we do at the hospital, and many of Dr. Dreyer's comments spoke to keeping care closer to home. We came across an interesting study a couple of months ago from the Emergency Medical Journal that alluded to a 10-kilometer increase or from a hospital can have a correlation to an increase of 1% in mortality. So as an example, when we look at the municipality of West Elgin connecting to Newberry Hospital, it's about 18 kilometers. When you look to West Elgin, and we use St. Thomas as an illustrative example, it's about 60 kilometers. So that's a difference of about 40 kilometers. So for every 10-kilometer difference, there's some statistics that show it's an extra 1%. So it's an extra 4% mortality risk of going to a place that's farther away than the actual Four Counties hospital. So we found that was very telling. And we know that perhaps a hospital of our size is not London Health Sciences Center. It does not have all the tertiary care services that one would expect. However, what Newberry can do is stabilize. If you come in with a very traumatic injury, that we can stabilize the patient and then of course send them on to the most appropriate care platform afterwards. Another story about keeping care closer to home is from Barb Gerber. And this is a testimonial about her father who passed away at our hospital. Barb speaks to having had an opportunity to see her father pass away in a palliative care setting, which is a palliative care suite that we developed and renovated several years ago. And I know I won't read all of this slide verbatim, but she certainly speaks with heartfelt passion about how the care was truly second to none at the hospital, and is very hopeful and likes to brag about the hospital in terms of how we can keep care closer to home and how it's a family setting. I want to remind as well this council that our Middlesex Hospital Alliance comprises of 2 hospital sites, 4 counties health services, as well as Strathroy Middlesex General Hospital. What's important to point out, however, is that we do have separate foundations, and that is purposeful. It's to make sure that the foundations, as they do their fundraising work, support capital equipment that will remain in their hospital. We are also blessed and fortunate that in addition to the foundation, we have an active group of auxiliary and volunteer members that can help support and augment some of that fundraising in our community. I also want to speak to you about COVID-19. That's been the proverbial elephant in the room in terms of all that we've been living over the last 2+ years. I want to share with you a bit of what our challenges have been at the hospital. We have had, like many other hospitals, that had to shut down and now have started to partially resume many of our clinical services. But to be absolutely clear, our emergency department and our inpatient beds have never closed throughout the pandemic. We continue to maintain that 24/7 environment. What we had to do is curtail some of the ambulatory care clinics and such. During the COVID-19 epidemic, we also realized that we did not have all the necessary resources to fully take care of some of these patients. And by that, I mean a negative pressure room, to make sure that as those COVID patients come into the hospital, that there's the appropriate ventilation to make sure that there's no further spread of the disease. So we actually had a small negative pressure room, but it clearly did not fit the bill. And we were able to, with the support of the foundation and others, do a renovation of an existing hospital room to the tune of about $100,000. From a visitor impact perspective, if you've had loved ones in hospital, you've probably noticed that there was an extensive screening and masking requirements. We've had to curtail and eliminate our volunteers coming on site for the time being. And we had to put severe restrictions on visitor policies. All of these continue to change and evolve. In fact, prior to this meeting, I had a question from the audience indicating whether or not our masking will continue after the government recently announced that masking restrictions will start to loosen. The short answer is yes. Hospitals have decided for the time being to continue with masking in our hospital setting. Last but not least, we've had some staff impacts to COVID-19. And by that, I mean, this has been a period of extreme stress and anxiety for all of us as a society. And sometimes that's manifested itself by having patients or visitors that are coming into the hospital and exhibiting some abusive behaviors and physical violence, which just poses an extra stress on our staff. We've also had to do some very difficult decisions. And after we mandated staff vaccination policies, staff that were not compliant with that policy were no longer employed by the hospital. Now that's a handful and that's unfortunate, but we certainly had to move with that in the benefit of serving and keeping a safe environment for all of our patients. And last but not least here, Health Human Resources. We, along with many other sectors, as we recover from the post-pandemic, continue to have challenges with recruiting and retaining our staff. I will just skim through, in the interest of time, this very valuable scorecard, which articulates how busy are we, how occupied have we been, and what activities have we been doing at the hospital. You can see from the slides here, and I'll highlight a couple of metrics. On the top left, you see the number of emergency visits that we had in the last fiscal year ending March 31st, 2022. We had 9,400 visits last year. Our high prior to the pandemic was about 10,800 and something. So we're hopeful that these visits will recover and get back to the pre-pandemic norms. The smaller number you see there, 7,091, is actually for the year prior. So during the pandemic, we had a drop in numbers. And that also manifested itself not only with emergency visits, but with the occupancy rate. It's a bit counterintuitive. You'd think we'd be busier during the pandemic, but there was actually a drop in occupancy from 73% in 2020-21 to 86.29% in 2021-2022. We fully expect to be at that 100% mark, which was our pre-pandemic numbers, very soon. And again, no volunteers. Endoscopy program was put on hiatus during the pandemic, but we're looking to resume that this year. Another interesting statistic, and we've shared this with these council meetings and other stakeholders before, is what is the distribution of patients? Which county do they come from? Pleased to report that there is a stable group of about 22.9% of our patients that come in for inpatient visits come from Elgin County, and that's remained stable throughout. In terms of emergency visits, again, it's about 18.6%, articulated in blue on the chart here, that come from Elgin County. Our hospital continues to be fortunate and supported by 4 what we call most responsible physicians. Those are the family physicians in our community that come into the hospital each morning and do patient rounds and provide specific orders for the day for those patients. We are so blessed to have those 4 individuals. We are also blessed to have 2 nurse practitioners. Once the family physicians leave and go back to their regular family practice, those nurse practitioners are able to continue providing that care. I added an extra slide here for your interest. It's an occupancy rate chart for our hospital for those inpatient beds. Prior to the pandemic, we were operating close to, if not just slightly above, the 100% range. You see that little drop down to 40% right in the middle of that graph. That's actually the start of the COVID pandemic. So again, whether there was reluctance at the time for people to go into the hospital, there's a variety of interesting factors there. But you can see there's almost a direct correlation between the kind of the sawtooth diagram here that almost corresponds with the various waves of the pandemic. So we find that very interesting. But again, we are heartened by the April 2022 metric that shows that we are again back to a full occupancy rate in terms of our hospital and its ability to serve its patients. We're very proud of, and Dr. Dreyer alluded to that in his presentation, we're very proud of the Health Village. We've always said that we are more than an emergency department. We are more than an inpatient department. We are bigger. The expression I like to use is the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. And by that, we bring in and have partnered with several tenants on site. We have the foundation as a key tenant. We have the dental group that joined us about 1.5 years ago. We have SOHAC, which is one of our newer tenants. It's Southwestern Ontario Aboriginal Health Access Center. They have 4 days a week of mental health counselor support, 1 day a week of a family physician, and 1 day a week of a nurse practitioner to serve the Aboriginal First Nations populations. And we have a community lab. Dynacare has been on site for several years now. And in fact, we're in some discussions right now to grow their presence. And I hopefully will have some fantastic news to share with our communities in the weeks to come in terms of how they can provide a better service for our patients in our community. So that's it for my presentation. It's been a pleasure to share with you an update on the hospital and what we've been up to. So I'll leave it for Tom to finish our presentation. Thank you.
Sorry. It's important for each and every one of us to know where we are moving in terms of working the working parts of the hospital and keep you informed of that, because through those informed sessions with the community, then you can, as donors, can also step up to the plate and help out. So as I said, we always come with an ask, and I know that you have always been generous in the past, but if you in your deliberations can consider some dollars that could come towards the hospital, it would be greatly appreciated. I know you've been very generous over the past and over the years, and we do appreciate that. One of the things, is that goes on is every year we're just resuming, there again, COVID, we're resuming our golf tournament this coming year. And if anyone is interested in golfing, July 15th is the date, and Jackie will be distributing some flyers. It's all there if you're interested. It's $100 per person, and all the proceeds will go towards, we're going to be purchasing a defibrillator for the emergency department. That's approximately $17,000. So it's a very worthwhile cause. So if you know of anybody, or if you want to be a sponsor or just want to make a donation, you know what I mean? We're having I guess what we call a draw for that. And if you're interested in that, to providing us something for that, it would be greatly appreciated. I think that's pretty much everything. And on behalf of the foundation, the hospital, and all of the staff and board of governors, I'd like to thank you for taking your time out of your very busy schedules to be with us, letting us present today to you. It's a pleasure to be here. And now I would ask him, if you have any questions, please fire away. We're ready and willing.
Thank you for that presentation. It was a real good update.
Yeah.
I remember some years ago, you had difficulty staffing the emergency department, and I think there were times when it had to be closed. How are you handling that now, and who are your emergency
I'm
staff?
pleased to answer that question. So certainly, I think it's a two-pronged perspective. First off, there are other hospitals in Ontario that have had to make very difficult decisions to close their emergency departments, for example, during evenings, right? So they would stay open during the day and then have to close, as an example, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. We have not had to do that in recent times, which has been fantastic news. We've never had to, turn off the blue H, so to speak. We continue to work diligently to fully staff that emergency department with nursing. We have a good cadre of family physicians and emergency physicians and specialists to staff that emergency department. We have had to tap into some provincial sources. For example, Health Force Ontario has a fund that can provide additional reinforcements and supports when needed, and we've tapped into that. But as of right now, we are in fantastic shape.
Regarding palliative care, you just have the one suite.
Yes, that's correct. So what we did about 7 years ago is we converted a ward room into one suite for one patient, but the other half of the ward room actually has sofas, kitchenette, etc. And those sofas can be converted into beds so that family members can choose to stay overnight if they wish. So we deem from a patient population standpoint, having that one suite has been sufficient for our needs at this time.
It's sufficient for your needs.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So, I know that there's a movement afoot to build a new facility in St. Thomas. In all honesty, that doesn't really, I think, help the people of this area, because it is quite a drive. So.
Right.
And then there's another one in Chatham, which is of the same thing. So I'm quite surprised that one suite is sufficient enough.
I'm happy to further elaborate on that. I think that the delineation around palliative care can be around the projected length of stay. In our acute care settings, our palliative care suite, if I remember our statistics, usually tended to be patients that are declining to the point where death might be imminent within about 7 days.
Mhm.
In contrast, a hospice, which is this buildings you speak of,
Yeah.
tend to be lengths of stay which could be several weeks, if not a couple of months in duration.
Okay.
For that reason, we are certainly very supportive of the hospice landscape, but it caters to a different group of patients, which may have a longer expected stay,
Yeah.
if that's helpful.
Yeah, I apologize. I guess I was in a situation where I did confuse the two. So I guess if there's no further questions, Tom, you and your foundation, your presence is always felt with this council, and I believe last year we sent you $5,000 just because. Yeah, you were there, and so that's an indication that certainly you do have support here. And if we find some money down in the sofa, we'll send it your way. And
we certainly appreciate that, and we thank you for taking the time, and we look forward to working with you over the years ahead, and much continued success as a municipality, because I know that you have a lot of a lot of work on your plate too, to keep up with all the challenges that are constantly coming forward as our hospital do. And we thank, I want to give I wanted you to make you very much aware of Jackie's presence here today. She's just new with us. She started in April, and I think it's important that, you know, we work with her. And if you have any questions or any concerns in regards to fundraising or want to talk about anything, feel free to contact her, because she's our new contact, and we want to get her out there, and she will be making presentations to some of your respective businesses in the community as well in the near future. So we thank you.
So
I'll let you know.
just before you leave, Tom, can we expect a formal request in writing from you in the near future?
For a donation?
Yes,
Yes, we can get something off to you.
that's kind of the process that we're working on.
Okay.
That we've
Do
done.
you or have you gone to, some of the municipalities have gone to an application process? You have moved to that as well. Okay, so we'll get Jackie to pull that
Yeah.
up, and or if Janet, would you just send us one, we would appreciate that
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, get that in works, and I'll quietly twist the treasurer's arm to see if she
Yeah,
can come up with some money.
Good enough, thank you. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
okay,
Your worship, I just wanted to say
yeah.
that I'm looking forward to meeting all of you, and I'm just from Bothwell, so it's really passionate about our rural communities. So I'm happy to be a part of the foundation, and I hope that we can continue to support the hospital the way we have. So,
Yeah.
good to meet you all.
All right. Yes, it's a busy day. Everyone seems to be. All right, do we have our lower Thames?
Yes, Valerie and Mark are on and they're up next. Valerie, give me a moment and I'll get your PowerPoint ready.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, the members from Lower Thames.
Morning.
Good morning.
I see you're just fine. You've got a good person in the background there covering your back, so.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well,
Mr.
good to
Mayor,
see- Oh, go ahead.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for allowing us to speak today to council.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you will let them know when they're ready to roll. All right.
So I will, with your permission, I will start the presentation, Mr. Mayor. So what we're talking about today is a memorandum of understanding between the municipality and the Conservation Authority for providing planning services that we have provided for many years to the municipality. It's a formalization of that as required under Bill 229 with changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. So what we're doing is formalizing the current services that we do provide to the municipality. It provides the municipality with more say on specifically what we review and what we commented on. And it also provides report back. So it ensures that this conservation authority is responsible and provides the information for municipality to make decisions on what's happening with the planning program and how we are providing those services. The other thing it does is formalize fees. And one of the things that we have found at the Lower Thames, we have not charged planning fees. We are the only conservation authority in Southwestern Ontario that doesn't. And with cuts to the provincial government funding of our program, it has put us in a position that we're now looking at charging some planning fees. And I'll get more into that as we go along. Next slide, please. So the memorandums of understanding have to be completed by January 2024, and that is to allow us to continue providing services, the whole range of services. And I'll get a little bit into that about what the bill does around the services we provide. We have used as our draft, a draft that was prepared by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and Conservation Ontario, and had a lot of input from municipalities through that process. Once we got the draft, we have provided to municipalities across our region and neighboring conservation authorities for comments on how we can best make it unique and make it so that member municipalities can support it. Next slide, please.
So we've asked a review of it. We created a draft. We sent it out probably about a year ago, and we've been working actually with West Elgin for 2 or 3 years on this. But the last formal draft went out maybe a year ago, and then since that, a number of municipalities have provided comments. That first draft didn't have a lot of comments, but since that time, we've had a number of comments. And they were excellent comments. They really took that agreement from being a province-wide type of agreement and made it more specific for the Elgin experience. Next slide, please. So we've received comments from 5 municipalities and the neighboring CAs. One of the things that we share a number of municipalities, and it was very important that we don't create challenges for those shared municipalities with other conservation authorities. We felt that was important that when the municipality gets a service, it's consistent across the board. So one of the other things is it was suggested, and this is by municipalities in Elgin, Essex, and Middlesex, that the counties be brought into this and that we talk to them because of their role in the planning. So that will be done. We've begun doing some discussions with them about how it will look a little bit different because there are different responsibilities, but it will ensure that there's a seamlessness to the services that we provide to the residents of our watershed. Next slide, please. So our goal is we would like to have these agreements signed by November of this year, because like your council and the elections that are going to happen, our board will change over. Many of the details in the planning agreements are important. The experience that you have in your planning roles, it's important that you bring that forward in looking at what we're proposing, so you as a council feel comfortable that the services that we're providing are appropriate for your residents. We will take the time if you feel that is inappropriate to try to move this forward within that time frame. We will do whatever the council feels is best and appropriate for your residents. So our internal time frame is to try to have these in place by November as we move forward. Next slide, please. So we have been gaining staff and input, and we did work with your staff for quite a significant time reviewing all the different input. When you send an agreement to a bunch of planners, you better expect lots of input, and we did get it. And it was very positive input. So once the planning department and your administrative department felt comfortable, then the intent is to bring it to council, which we are doing here today. Thank you. One more slide here, or a few more slides. So what have we been doing with you over the last number of years? One of the important pieces is the Planning Act does provide guidelines regarding timing of response by people providing support to you making a decision as municipal council. I'm happy to say that over the last 2 or 3 years, we have met all timelines given to us. And I believe that that is an important measurement of whether we can continue on in this arrangement. Next slide, please. So within the planning element, there are 2 different services that we provide, and it's based on what is in the Bill 229 legislation. They have broken up the planning and regulation services into 2 categories. One, which is called mandatory, where we don't need any type of agreement to levy a municipality. That doesn't mean we levy haphazardly. We would only levy with your approval. The other is non-mandatory elements, such as input that we provide on a planning application regarding natural heritage and species at risk. So we do provide those things, but under the new legislation, we needed an agreement with you to provide those services. What we've done in this agreement is put all services in planning that we provide. So there are elements that are non-mandatory and there are elements that are mandatory, because we felt it was important to describe everything that we do in planning and then allow the municipality to decide how they want to move forward. Next slide. So here are the numbers, the number's not on here. 65,212 was your entire levy for all the services the authority provides to the municipality. Out of that, the non-mandatory, there was about 17,300 of that work that we do across our watershed, and your share was 745,000. Out of the mandatory, the number on here is wrong. The municipal share was not 1,101. It was actually 6,945. So I apologize for that, but the actual program was about almost $7,000 of support from the municipality out of levy. And that was based on the fact that any money we got from the province, we backfed into the program to try to reduce the levy paid. And we also generated some money. And that money was the information requests from lawyers and for real estate transactions and those types of things. And we do charge for that service, but we did not charge for any of the planning services, such as review of minor variances, zoning, official plan amendments, those types of programs where we provide comment. Next slide. So that is the basis of what our presentation of this memorandum of understanding. And there's a second half to the presentation that Val will go through, which is the planning fees for the planning that we're bringing forward. We felt it was only honest for us if we were bringing an agreement for it to be upfront about what we're looking at on the fees that we're looking to do. So we have included that in the agreement for your review as well. So Mr. Mayor, actually on that, do you wish to have comments, questions now, or do you wish to wait to the end of Val's presentation?
Well, let's break it down here. Council, have any questions on the first part of the presentation? I just have one. As this agreement comes forward, is this agreement have language in it that it's reviewed on a basis that every so many years that the opportunity for the Conservation Authority and the municipality to review the agreement as it stands and make changes that things change, people change, and we have the opportunity to improve the agreement moving forward?
Mr. Mayor, yes, it does. I want to assure council, though, that if and any time council is concerned with this agreement, I will attend council and answer to that.
Well, hopefully when we get to the point of having an agreement that everyone is satisfied with it, then it will be the vehicle that will service our situation for a good number of years to come. But as long as there's the opportunity to if we need to make it better, let's do that.
We wholeheartedly encourage that, Mr. Mayor, because we've always had a good relationship, and it's important for us to maintain that. Yes,
and certainly from my perspective, I know that we've had a close working relationship with the Lower Thames Conservation Authority, and certainly I expect full well that that will continue going into the future, and certainly with this agreement, I think it'll hopefully make things better. One thing about this agreement coming forward from the provincial government, you guys didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what to expect, but I think going through it's made us stronger together.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that is true. It's a lot of work for everyone, but it's work that is well worth the effort.
All right. Well, Valerie.
Yep.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's too bad everybody's stuck inside. We should be enjoying this last nice weather while it's lasting before it gets into the heat.
We won't make you walk the beach at Port Glasgow this morning.
Oh, come on. Hey, that's always fun. for Jenna to put that back up.
Yeah.
Okay, so as part of the bill 229 changes, we have to go through MOU process with the municipality. This part of the MOUs that is required under Bill 229 is just dealing with the planning component. We'll probably be coming back later in the year or maybe even next year for the rest of our services. So that would be the tree planting, habitat, education, that sort of thing. So this is strictly with the planning. So as part of this process, as Mark said, we've never charged a fee for planning. Our board has always been of the opinion that the funding from the province was covering off our service requirements. That was fine until they cut the budget once again. When you keep having our budget, it kind of affects how we do business. And obviously, I don't know if you've been keeping track of our numbers, but our regulatory and our planning numbers have been going up. Planning kind of fluctuates here or there, but you know, this past couple of years with COVID, everybody was home and they wanted to build and do projects. So we definitely saw an uptick in the numbers for that. So as Mark noted, other CAs have been around us throughout the province have been charging fees for a long time now. We were one of the last holdouts for that. Next slide, please. So I've pretty much already talking beyond that. So we did look at our surrounding CAs, adjacent CAs, and a couple of beyond. We kind of discharged those ones because different makeup, different requirements in their conservation areas. So we stuck to the 4 that were around us. Some of them were, I figured if I had brought those fees forward, I would have been hung up by my toenails. So we went with the lowest guys on the block, which surprisingly was Urcas. So from that, we took those fees and we looked at how we could bring them into what we were doing for our municipalities to make it a local feel. We didn't want to go too high on the fees at the first outset, just so that we know, we want to make sure that we're getting good cost recovery for the services that we're providing. So the fee schedule is included in the MOU agreement. It is Schedule 3 once you get that document. Next slide, please. So this is our fee schedule. So obviously the legal inquiry fee, that's our standard fee that we charge for all legals or realtor inquiries. So from there below is pretty much all new. We did modify some of what IRCA had, and we hopefully made it a little bit clearer, more consistent for what we do for our local member municipalities. So we didn't go really crazy. I mean, some CAs, there was 4 digits, instead of 3. We try to keep it down just to, we are a rural CA, so we wanted to maintain that feel within our member municipalities. And if there's anything that we are not recouping, then at the end of the year, we're going to do a review and we're going to come back with a new fee schedule. We will talk to the planner, we'll talk to Magda and see, what that difference will be. One of the things that we are asking as part of the MOU agreement is that the municipality does collect on our behalf. The thing that we don't want to get caught in is a landowner coming in, providing their application to the municipality, and then the municipality sending them to us to collect the fee. And if they don't pay our fee, then that messes up your timeline, because we technically would not be able to provide you with comments on that planning application until we had received our payment. So for moving forward, it was determined that if the municipality could collect our fee, then everything is all in at once, and then the planning technician can just send us the information as usual, and then quarterly they submit the funds to us. So we'll be tracking and you'll be tracking. I think the next one, please, next slide. So if anybody has any questions.
Bonnie,
I just had one question with regard to one of the acronyms you used. Who is IRCA?
Oh, sorry. The Essex Region Conservation Authority. So they're in Essex County, Windsor, Amherstburg, that area.
And you did say that they were among the lowest of the fee
Yes.
schedules?
Yeah, which was kind of surprising.
Thank you.
any other questions? As everything fees go up, what's the process for increasing fees? Is that just a notification to the municipality that fees are to be increased, or is that something that's negotiable, or is that just a direction from your board?
What we'll do is at the end of the year, we'll go through the fees and make sure our costs are being covered. If anything is lacking or not quite meeting that mark, then we come back to the planner and probably Magda or whoever wishes to sit in on that discussion, and we'll discuss what needs to be adjusted, either up or down. You know, you never know. And then it will be taken to our board and provided to you as well.
Okay. Everybody else happy? All right, guys, I think you must have done a pretty good job. There's
No questions.
no burning questions.
So how we'll move forward is probably at your next council meeting, Heather, or if she's still here. Thanks for that, Heather, just springing that on me, by the way. We'll come back with the MOU document, and then you guys can review it and make sure that you are also okay with it. So far, it's been Heather and Magda that has been in on the review process with us. And then hopefully we'll get approval for that at the next council meeting.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes, plan is always good.
There's no planning fee for the plan, is there?
No.
Okay. I guess if that's the extent of the business we have on this subject, we would like to thank you both for coming, and certainly you know that our door is always open for any time that you have something on your mind. And I know that Valerie, you've always been very good to respond very quickly to things that are happening in West Elgin. So good
Yeah,
relationship.
I'll have to get to see your office because that boardroom is a new layout for me. It threw me off.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Talk to you
Have a good
later.
day.
We're good, sir, if you're willing, sir, we'd like to move ahead to the 8.4.1, which is the severances, since the participants are here.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Oh,
Unless you want a break.
well,
We can do, there's two of them, two quick ones.
yeah, Richard just needed a comfort break.
Okay, so a recess for 10 minutes, maybe?
No,
No?
not that long. We'll just recess shortly while Richard pulls the disappearing act, and he will reappear immediately.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, back to our agenda. And Heather is here. We need to go to 8.4.1.
Correct.
Okay, we have a severance. We do have a recommendation. Do we want Heather to speak to it first, or Heather, are you prepared to lead us through this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor McPhail and Council. A proposed severance application was submitted by Larch Lane Farms Limited, applicant being Peter L. Dealman. Properties located at 26661 Silver Clay Line. The proposed severance is to facilitate the lot creation of a surplus farm dwelling that is part of a farm consolidation within our agricultural area. Up on your screen currently is a map showing the proposed severed parcel as well as the surrounding retained lands. Just want to bring to your attention that the public hearing for the severance is scheduled at Elgin County Land Division Committee on June 22nd, 2022. In terms of planning policies, I reviewed this application in terms of the provincial policy statement, and the proposed severance is consistent with the PPS. In terms of the County of Elgin official plan, the proposed severance conforms to the county's official plan. Moving on to the West Elgin official plan, the proposed severance application conforms to West Elgin's official plan. Lastly, moving on to the West Elgin zoning bylaw, a proposed zoning bylaw amendment is required. The proposed severed parcel is required to be rezoned to rural residential as a condition of the approval of the severance. The proposed retained parcel is also recommended to be rezoned to agricultural A2 to permit agricultural uses and prohibit new dwellings. In terms of municipal staff department comments, I received comments from drainage that a drainage reapportionment is required for the McKay drain, as this property is assessed into that municipal drainage area. No concerns from the utility department as the proposed severed parcel is connected to municipal water. In terms of Public Works did note a new entrance for farm access may be required, and if so, an entrance permit would be required. At the time of submission of this report, no other comments or concerns were received from municipal staff. Therefore, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed surplus farm dwelling lot creation severance is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the County of Elgin official plan, and conforms to the West Elgin official plan, complies with the zoning bylaw, subject to relief, and that council recommend to the County of Elgin that the consent be approved, subject to the lower tier municipal conditions listed in the report. Thanks.
Okay. It's pretty straightforward severance. Certainly it fits and ticks all the boxes off. Anything you would like to add, Mr. Dillon?
Nothing more to add. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Do we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak to the severance?
They can't.
Oh, it's not a public meeting.
Yeah, this is not a public meeting, so no public gets to
Oh,
speak.
okay.
That will be done through the county.
Oh, okay. There we go. Just a simple recommendation. So do you want to read the recommendation, Madam Clerk?
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council receive the report from Heather James, planner, regarding severance application file E3322, comments to Elgin County, and that West Elgin Council hereby recommends the approval to Land Division Committee of the County of Elgin for the severance application file E3322, subject to lower tier municipal conditions attached as Appendix 2 to this report. And further, that West Elgin Council directs administration to provide this report as municipal comments to the County of Elgin.
Okay, you've offered the resolution. Seconder, moved by Leatham, seconded by Rowe. All in favor? That is carried. The wait took longer than the actual event, Peter. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along with the severances, we will now go to 8.4.2 severance application E4822, 157 and 161 Jane Street. Heather?
Okay, thank you, Mayor McPhail. This application was submitted by the owners and the applicants, that being Ian and Fern Patterson. The property is currently not connected to the municipal water supply and the municipal sanitary sewer supply. However, it has the ability to connect. As mentioned, these properties are located at 157 and 161 Jane Street in the community of Rodney. It's my understanding these lots have in fact merged on title based upon the information I received from their solicitor. So therefore a severance is required. So for your information purposes, in this drawing that's up on the screen right now, severed parcel, I've outlined kind of in red. It's also identified as part 1 on this draft survey plan. The retained parcel identified as part 2 on this plan. In terms of planning policy review, I reviewed the provincial policy statement and the proposed severance is consistent with the PPS. In terms of the Elgin County official plan, the proposed severance conforms to the County of Elgin official plan. Next, the West Elgin official plan. I reviewed the policies and the proposed severance conforms to the West Elgin official plan. Lastly, moving on to the West Elgin zoning bylaw, the property is currently zoned residential second density R2. The current zoning permits single detached dwellings as well as a variety of other dwelling types. The proposed severed and retained parcels meet the R2 zone provisions. Therefore, the proposed severance appears to comply with the zoning bylaw. In terms of municipal department comments, Utilities Department noted that municipal water service and municipal sanitary service is at the street. The proposed severed parcel is required to connect to both services. Public Works Department noted that connection to municipal water and municipal sanitary service is required and that renumbering of municipal address may be required. At the time of submission of this report, no other comments or concerns were received from the departments. In summary, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed lot creation severance is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It conforms to the County of Elgin official plan and conforms to the West Elgin official plan and complies with the West Elgin zoning bylaw. And that council recommend to the County of Elgin that the severance be approved, subject to the lower tier municipal conditions listed in the report. Thank you.
Okay, you've all heard the planning report. Are there any representatives from
Mr. Patterson's there.
Mr. Patterson? Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Patterson?
Nothing in particular. We thank you for your cooperation.
Well, we thank you for your interest in our community and look forward to some new development possibly happening on Jane Street. With that being said, would you read the recommendation, Madam Clerk? Oh, yes.
I just noted that the part one of the parcel is quite a bit smaller than the other and also smaller than the other lots along there. It is big enough to build on, is it?
Yes, it meets the minimum R2 zone provisions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, recommendation, Madam Clerk.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council receive the report from Heather James, planner regarding consent application E4822, and that West Elgin Council hereby recommends approval to the Land Division Committee of the County of Elgin for the severance application file E4822, subject to lower tier municipal conditions in Appendix 2 of this report. And further, that West Elgin Council directs administration to provide this report as municipal comments to the County of Elgin.
All heard the recommendation. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Tellier and Councillor Leatham, all in favor? That is carried. Well, that's all we can do for you this morning, Mr. Patterson. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Sir, would you like to continue? The planner does have one more report. Would you like to deal with that now? So,
Yes.
okay.
Carry on with review of provincial changes.
So council has received a copy of my report. I'm just wondering if there's any questions on this proposed change.
Councillor Rowe.
Not necessarily on the proposed change, but just the recommendation that administration review the official plan and the zoning bylaw amendments and the site plan control processes. And I just wondered, would our official plan consultants not be bringing us recommendations in their role as our consultant?
Absolutely, that will also, so they're well aware of Bill 109 and the changes, and they will be incorporating that in with the official plan. I just felt it was best that, given the significant changes that the province is making, that we, as an administration, do a fulsome review of all of our processes for the affected planning applications to make certain everything's covered off. To make certain we're not missing anything.
Thank you.
Reading through your report, all in all, the changes are not ultimately going to affect us to any great length at this point in time, are they?
That is correct. Yeah, we're in a good position in terms of, some of the things we've already done, and in particular, the big one being that the delegating the site plan approval to municipal staff. We've already done that, and also having a pre-consultation bylaw in effect. So that was some of the biggest changes I saw that impacted us. There may be changes that impact us in time, in particular if we end up doing a development charges bylaw. But again, those changes to that section are fairly minimal.
Okay, well, certainly staff will bring forward the necessity to pay attention to the changes as they affect our planning, so.
Perfect.
And yes, Bonnie?
One more question. I just wondered if you had any, from your experience over the last few years, have we had any applications that would have had to have some of the fees reimbursed because they were delayed?
I would say no. Some of the applications I can think of in particular, that being Seaside, has experienced significant delays. However, there was some of those applications, not all of the information was provided to us. So therefore I was able to deem them incomplete. And if we're able to deem them incomplete because there's outstanding information required, then we're not required to refund these fees. So there is some kind of a bit of a, I'm not saying a gray area, there's a bit of an area that municipalities have to kind of work with developers on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any more questions? Seeing none, recommendation, Madam Clerk.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Heather James regarding Bill 109, review of provincial changes, and that West Elgin Council hereby directs administration to complete the review of the official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments, and site plan control processes before additional legislation comes into force and effect on January 1st, 2023.
Okay, over and seconded, moved by Taille, seconded by Rowe, all in favor, and that is carried. Okay, Heather. We've all heard the news, and personally, I'm quite happy for you that you're moving your work right into your own backyard. But on the other hand, I'm very sad that that we're going to leave, or you're going to leave us. So we'll probably are we going to do something a little more formal coming up? Yes. So until that, Heather, thank you very much for what you do.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor McPhail and West Elgin Council. It's been quite a pleasure to serve as your planner for the past 8 years. Over the past 8 years, I'm definitely seeing more significant growth and change in our municipality, definitely for the positive and for the better. I'm very excited to see that. I will say I'm very sad to leave your municipality. I consider West Elgin Council and the staff, they're part of my family. So I am sad to leave. However, I am excited to move forward and take on a new challenge in my career, and also plan in my own backyard. I find that as a planner can be a little bit challenging at times to plan in your own backyard. But I look forward to the challenges that await me. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Heather. All right, where do you want to go now? To
The adoption of the
Jackie?
minutes. Can we do the adoption of the minutes and then we'll move to
Yeah,
Jackie?
we better do that.
So that the minutes of the council meeting of May 26, 2022 be adopted as circulated and printed.
Over and seconded. Latham and Cameron, all in favor? That is carried. Any business arising for the minutes? Everything's good. Staff reports. Jackie.
Good morning. How are you?
I guess you've all received Jackie's report. Any questions that you have regarding Jackie's report? I see none. Anything else that you would like to add to your report since it's
Thank you. No, I think same status quo basically as the last time, still plugging away, and more permits are on the horizon. So we keep moving forward with all of that. There seems to be lots of activity coming our way. So.
all righty. Well,
That West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Jackie Morgan Bunin, CBO, rebuilding permit report for May 2022 for information purposes.
Moved by Rowe, seconded by Tellier, all in favor, carried. I'm just noticing that plugging things is a plumber's job, pounding things is for the building inspector.
I suppose so.
Thank you, Jackie.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Okay, next up. Our fire chief. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning, your worship and council.
We have your report. Any questions that council might have on your activity report? Planning is well underway for our recognition night.
Yeah, Tuesday, the 21st. So, and I've had confirmation, the Rick Finnemore, who's the Office of the Fire Marshal, Field Services Advisor, I believe is his proper title. Anyways, he is able to attend that evening. So looking forward to that.
Richard.
Is it possible that we have a list of the names of the retirees, please?
For sure, yeah. Sorry.
Because I'm very familiar with maybe say Rodney, but I'm not very familiar with the firemen in West Lawn. So I think it would be handy for everybody to know the names of the people that are retiring.
For sure. I can pass that on right now. Yeah, apologies for not informing that. So there's 4, basically we're capturing any recent retirees with 20 years or more of service. So I did check with the officers to make sure I wasn't missing anyone, because obviously in the past I wasn't aware of all the staff or all the firefighters. So Dave Alderton from Station 2, captain, recently retired this year. Andrew Cruikshank, who retired before I arrived, so a couple years ago, probably just before COVID, without seeing the exact date in front of me. And then captains Joe Kleingen and Tim Blaine from Rodney, Station 1. So the 4 of them.
Okay. Anything that you want to highlight out of your?
Yeah, the only thing I'll mention is just the air compressor. In the report there, I put early July. So I think we're still hopeful for that. They are having some supply chain issues, of course, but just this morning I got word that Jordair, which is the primary supplier, hopes to have it on the floor in a couple of weeks. So I hope we can still keep that timeline, because then we're going to implement the 4,500 PSI cylinder conversion kind of at the same time. And we did, just for council's information, we do a 6-month air sample of the breathing air. And for the first time in the last couple of years anyways, the sample did fail from the compressor at Station 1. So 2 options. We may do another test. Sometimes the second test passes for breathing air quality, but more likely I've reached out to Chief Schul in Dutton, and he has no issue with us using their compressor for the next hopefully 6 weeks or so. So that just update council on that situation. I really would rather not put any more money into the old compressor as we're going to replace it. So
Makes sense. Councilor Cameron.
Good morning through the chair. So being as the electric vehicle charging station will be coming online sometime in Rodney, will the fire department be doing some kind of training on how to deal with fires with electric vehicles? I recently had a resident provide me with some interesting YouTube videos of actually how combustible those electric cars are and how difficult they are to put out. So I wondered what our plan of action is with them.
yeah, no, excellent. I appreciate the question. And that question actually came up at training last night at Station 2. And somebody just asked about it going forward, and I admittedly don't have much information on it, and neither did anyone else in the room, except obviously through social media and some informal information I've seen. So I think my plan is to reach out probably to the county training officer and as a starting point and see what may be available, because you're right, it's definitely going to be a new challenge. I'm not aware of anything specific in Elgin that's been done yet for training, but that's what I'll reach out to the county to see. But yeah, we'll definitely I would hopefully before the end of the year we can put something together for that.
Okay, thank you.
Has there not been something done in the past? An in-service or something on electrical vehicles? Maybe it was somewhere else. I don't know if we've done it here, but I just kind of remember seeing something about a bit of training on dealing or the danger of electric vehicles.
Nothing pops into my head at the moment, but when electric vehicles first came out, there may have been some information, but again, that's like very preliminary, so that's going back a few years. But I can't think of anything recent, to be honest.
Well, whether we like them or don't like them, they're coming, and so certainly a good point, Councillor Cameron, that we do what we can to ensure that and any time that our staff are put in harm's way, that they have the proper training to deal with it. So more to come on that. Anything else? Recommendation, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Jeff MacArthur, Fire Chief, May monthly fire report for information purposes.
Mover and seconder, please. Cameron and Latham, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you much, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Lee, our Manager, Operations Community Services. Everyone's had their report. Always lots going on, isn't there, Lee?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, there's certainly lots going on in the springtime. May gets to be one of the busier months for us, and obviously with the changes in staffing, we're getting new people on board, many new faces, and getting them up to speed. So it's getting the work accomplished and training all at the same time. So it's been busy.
Do we need temporary staff?
No, sir, I don't think we do. We're currently with the addition of the new operator in Parks and Recreation. That brings our Parks and Recreation staff back up to full complement now. So we're currently one operator short in our Public Works Department, and that will be going back out again here shortly for another round of applications for that position.
Cool. Any questions on Lee's report?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That was an auction. Yes, Councillor Tully. Or, well, I don't know who was first. All right.
Can I ask you a little bit about the container that was found? It was, did you get any more information on it? What was in it?
Yeah, the container that was located on Gray Line, somebody had set it off in the middle of the road on a quiet portion of Gray Line. It was a 1,000 liter chemical tote like you would see at Thompson's or at an elevator. It had no lid on it, so it was obviously placed there very carefully because there wasn't anything splashed or spilled. And when it was tested, it was found to be partially rainwater and partially used motor oil.
Oh my. Thank you.
And then just, I guess, to further that, I suspect that maybe that's not unfortunately going to be the only time we find that, because it used to be that used motor oil, they paid, the companies would pay to come and collect that. And then about 4 years ago, they quit paying, and for a short time it was free that they would come and collect it. And now in the last 18 months or so, year and a half now, there's a charge for it to be collected. So, and that's if you can get somebody, typically companies like Safety Clean won't come for small quantities. If somebody's changing the oil in their, in their personal vehicles or something, they're not going to pick that up. So
something that you vision that we're going to have to provide that service at a central location at some point in time?
Well, actually, sir, we do provide that service. Residents of West Elgin are allowed to take used motor oil and coolant and whatever into the depot in St. Thomas at any point, Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Trouble is on the way to St. Thomas, Gray Line's a lot closer.
Well, they're actually who arranged the emptying of that for us, so it cost us nothing, thankfully, because of our agreement.
But I'm just. You know, I don't know how much regulations and red tape you'd have to go through to have a.
We'd have to do an EA to be able to do it. There's a lot. We don't have the ability, and we looked into it, basically us and Dutton, to try and do it together before we got rid of our hazardous waste. I don't think it'll ever be possible, which is why we entered into that agreement with St. Thomas.
You know, Lee, does Waddick still accept it? I know Waddick accepted it at one point in time, if you bought your
No,
oil
they
from them.
can't.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any locations around here. We would accept it that one time a year during the hazardous waste day. And like I said, now that's part of our agreement with St. Thomas is that residents, I know it's a little bit farther, but they are, you know, on the upside, you can do it at any twice a week, 52 weeks a year versus saving it all up and bringing it in once a year for a hazardous waste day.
Through the chair, maybe just time for some recommunication about what is available to people to remind them. But I mean, likely we're still always going to have somebody that can't be bothered and we'll just do this process.
So through the chair also, the OFA used to do collection days and we obviously haven't done them during the pandemic, but there will be one coming up in July in Dutton. There will be details coming out. They will be free for OFA members, a small fee for non-OFA members. So I will provide that information to the municipality to publish as well to help get rid of some of that waste as well.
Good, thank you.
Through the chair, my question about your report is on page 2 of your report, but 77 of our package. At the bottom, you have a note about the fireworks and what we're needing decision in regards to those for the Civic Long Weekend. So you have a couple suggestions there. Can I add another suggestion? Maybe I'm on the fair board, maybe approaching the fair board if we don't do this, if we decide this isn't something we want to do, that maybe they would want to do something. I know in the past that they went down to the lake and did something there as well. So just an ask there. But it would be nice to have fireworks still down the lake. I know that people really enjoy them.
So we have been in communication with the president of the Fair Board. He was actually involved in us determining for sure there is no event going on Civic Holiday Weekend at the marina. And he did offer the Friday night of the fair that they'd be willing to host fireworks because their tractor pull is delayed till the Saturday. That's the other option. It just won't be at the lake. So it's basically up to council what you want to do with those fireworks.
It was meant for today. Yeah, this note in here was just meant for discussion purposes.
I think that's with the tractor pull moving Saturday night, that certainly I think would be a good addition to the fair to have fireworks. So why don't we leave that and we'll give you some direction possibly at our next meeting next week.
No, and speaking with fire department, they would prefer to use them this year.
All righty. Yes, buddy.
I have one other question with regard to the fiber being laid along the roads. I'm assuming that we hear about that ahead of time. Who's going to be laying fiber and where?
Correct. So any fiber plant that gets put in the ground, obviously now council at the last meeting, we now have a process in place for an actual telecommunications agreement, which these companies need to sign beforehand. And obviously, even if it's not our municipal road, we receive all that information from Elgin County when the county issues a permit to do it along county road. we get a copy of all that information long before they start putting stuff in the ground.
Yeah, it's just that we never hear about it as counselors who is laying it and who's gonna be able to access that fiber and so forth. And of course, we have a lot of constituents that are looking for fiber or some better process. So maybe there's a way of reporting that out to us.
Currently NFTC is the only company right now that is working in West Elgin. And they're working on the county portion of the contract, which the county approved earlier this spring. And that's Furnival Road, south of Rodney, from Rodney out to Port Glasgow. And then east and west along Talbot Line to pick up Mistley Side Road to the east and McCall Side Road to the west. And then the municipal portion of that we're working through the process right now with getting the paperwork finalized will be McCall Side Road down to Hickory Grove Trailer Park. It will be Thompson Line from Furnival Road to Graham Road. And it will be a portion of Queens Line from Graham Road going west about 1 kilometer.
Great.
So certainly if you look at those areas, these companies are looking at places where they get the best bang for their buck right now. So the density is what they're looking for, certainly, which is why they're going down McCall Side Road, right? But as they complete these projects, I think you're going to see that that's going to get expanded. They're going to keep plucking away at that. So certainly, if that's something that council would like,
I think it would be helpful just because.
as
even if
the
we had an updated map or something like that.
Yep.
Super.
as these telecommunication agreements are signed or finalized, we can bring that information forward as an update.
Yeah, through the chair, that'd be great. I have the residents on Macmillan Line always asking me, are we on the list? Are we on the list? Are we on the list? So that would be great.
Trouble is, there's really no list.
I know, yeah, we don't know the list until it's
Yeah.
decided.
And that's the other thing that concerns me a lot about it is the companies go through the process, picking off all the sweet spots. And then there's no incentive to do it for, so.
I think I noticed a Swift sign somewhere between here and St. Thomas. Was it Dutton Dunwich?
Yeah, you might, there is the Swift is doing in Elgin County. It is kind of winding down. So the Swift program, I think, and
Well, hopefully they spend all their money.
I hopefully they will, yeah. But it's been a slow process because awarding contracts, well, the next problem that you got is getting contractors. Even this process on Furnival Road has been dragged out and dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. And I was talking to Mike this morning and they finally got to about the third contractor, and this fella they've got now doing a pretty good job. He's getting the job done. All right, and no further questions on Lee's report. Do we have a resolution?
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Lee Gosnell, Manager of Operations and Community Services, for information purposes.
We're in seconder, please. Moved by Chalier and Cameron. All in favor? Carried. Next item up is not a problem today. But it has been a problem, and I mean, it's just the way sometimes it's dry and sometimes it's not, and this year has been dry. So Lee, if you'll go through your report.
Yep.
There's a most updated map.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as I think that sometimes just information is the key to understanding or being able to provide answers when the questions are asked. So I wanted to give council kind of an overview of the program here, and I think it's important, kind of to look at it right from the start, not just on the day that we actually start applying dust suppressant, but the whole process of how we take care and maintain the gravel road network in West Elgin. So you know, it starts very early in the spring when the frost is still in the ground. Once the weather starts to warm up, I know some of you have noticed that the tractors and drags are even out late in the afternoon and evenings when we have an afternoon shift still at the end of winter. The drags are excellent in that early spring because they're light. They, you know, when the roads are susceptible to the extra weight, and they're not very intrusive. They just scratch the surface, open it up, allow things to start to dry out, and you know, kind of mask or you know, level the damage from months of winter plowing. Then once that frost is pretty well out, the graders start. It takes a couple passes on the roads. The first one is quite labor intensive, or takes some time, because that's pulling all the gravel in that's been displaced over the winter, and you know, bringing that all back in, incorporating it back in, putting crown back in the road so the water sheds off of it. Water is one of the big detrimental things to gravel roads if you can't get that water off of them. So that takes them probably, you know, 4 to 6 weeks to get around the roads, to shape them up. And so that puts us into early May. I've been here now 9 years, through 9 spring seasons. Certainly the process has always been, since I've come here, is that we typically start with the dust control, usually around that 10th of May mark. Sometimes if we've had a really early spring, if we've had a mild winter and things have dried up early, and we've been able to get on things early, that process will start, you know, maybe towards the end of the first week of May. Sometimes if we've had a hard winter, we've had lots of frost, or if the weather doesn't cooperate and we get a lot of rains in April that don't allow us to do that first grade, then that delays dust control, you know, to closer to start by the long weekend. But usually we're right around that 10th of May that we start. In the report there, so we do take care of approximately 200 kilometers of gravel road in West Elgin. Our dust suppressant tender, we ask that the company be able to provide us with 4 truckloads a day at 30,000 liters. So they're spraying, they can spray approximately 13 kilometers a day of road. Because we do 2-pass system, so we do the truck, once the road's graded, the truck goes down one side and comes back the other. So we get 2.5 flake ton on each side, which helps to bind the aggregate along the edges so we don't get that gravel being lost. And then with the bars on the trailers, they get a really good overlap in the center. So that area that gets traveled the most actually is receiving a double pass. So that's what helps set that crown up and keep it hard. And that's what keeps the dust down. Just a little bit about, you know, how the brine works. And I think the reason why we did get the complaints that we had after the long weekend in May, towards the end of May there in the last week and a half, as you remember, we had that week that was just, you know, the low 30s. There was no humidity in the air. The wind was blowing every day. So when we spray the brine on the gravel roads, we put it down, and there's about 20% calcium chlorides in that brine solution. The carrier of the solution only keeps the dust down for a short time until it dries. The 80% of that liquid is more or less just like water. So you put water on gravel, as soon as it dries up, the gravel gets dusty again. It's that 20% content that will turn to a dry powder. It stays in the gravel. And then what it does is it draws moisture from the surrounding gravel. It draws moisture from the air, and that's what keeps it activated. And so that's why you'll notice a road that's been brined, you get 2 or 3 days of really hot, sunny weather, windy weather, it will start to turn light, like it's dried out, like it's not there. But then you get a night with like a foggy night, or you get a light rain or a heavy dew, that next morning you'll see it looks dark again. And that's just because it will reactivate. It draws that moisture. So on a week like we had, a week and a half ago, unfortunately, you're going to get dusty conditions, and you can get dusty conditions even on roads that have already been brined. So, we still do need moisture in the air to help that brine work and do what it's meant to do. So on the screen here, we've provided a map. Everything in blue here is our roads that have been graded and dust control has been applied. That is as of yesterday. So everything, obviously there's county roads and tar and chip roads in there too. So everything south of Rodney and West Lauren has been completed now, with the exception of Marsh Line from Furnival to McPherson, which the grader's working on today. But the stretch from Black's Lane to Furnival is getting fresh gravel this year. So that will be the last one in the south to be done. And then the majority of our maintenance gravel is going in the north this year. So, we tend to, as I said in the report, we'll do all the roads that we can do that aren't getting maintenance gravel to get them done and out of the way first, graded. We don't like, as long as we can start the gravel right away after we're done grading for brine, then we don't like putting brine on the roads that are getting the maintenance gravel, because you spend the money and you put the brine on the road, and then once you bury it with the gravel, new gravel, you've lost that. So number one, it would take the grader's time if we were grading those roads that are going to get maintenance gravel. That's just time that they're spending on there, and then we're wasting the product because it's going down and then we're putting fresh gravel over top. So the new gravel, Johnson's are going to start hauling new gravel next week, the beginning of next week. And that's the plan. So we'll keep moving with finishing off the road. So we're hoping, the fresh gravel takes a bit of time, but within the next, by mid June, we hope to have the majority of the maintenance gravel down and the dust control applied. So, I do understand that it can get dusty in the spring, and some places, some municipalities go based on they like to go early. They'll start right as soon as the half load comes off the spring weight restriction, because they want to get out, get it down, and hopefully eliminate some of those early season dust complaints. And some municipalities will wait and start with their dust control program in June, because typically you have more moisture in the spring, April, May. And if they feel if they put it down in June, they're going to get better control into July and August, those dog days of summer when things get really hot and dry. So, we've always tried to kind of hit that middle mark, if not maybe just a touch on the early side with the 10th of May. But, in past years, if I go back, and obviously at 13 kilometers a day of spreading, like I said in the report, that's 3 weeks of ideal weather. And that's not missing a single day due to rain or breakdowns or anything like that. So, that's 3 weeks right there. So it's typically, we're typically not wrapping up our dust control program until early June on a normal year. So unfortunately, when the program takes 3 to 4 weeks like that, somebody's going to have their road is going to be graded and brined. It's going to be the first week that we start, and somebody is going to be the last week when we finish. We try and rotate that from year to year. Obviously, a bit of it has to do with the maintenance gravel program, because those roads change each year. So typically those roads that are receiving gravel are the last ones each year to be done. But I guess, hopefully that provides a little bit of insight into the program here and what we're dealing with. And certainly none of us like dust any more than the next person, but the Public Works Department is doing the best job that they can. So, and like I said, the program this year is not really varied much from the program in previous years.
Questions?
Good report, thank you.
I really have to say that our road department does quite a remarkable job, because if you put it in this context, that if you stretched our roads out in one straight line, it goes from here to Milton. Which is, if you told somebody that you have to maintain the road from here to Milton, they look at you like, where will I start? So, I think that everybody's doing the best that they can, and There seems to be a shortage of patience in the world anymore. That is unfortunate, but we'll continue on providing the best level of service that we can. Okay, resolution, Madam Clerk.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Lee Gosnell, Manager of Operations and Community Services, re dust suppressant procedures for information purposes.
For a seconder, please. Talia and Cameron, all in favor? Carried.
Are we going to want to keep moving along, sir?
Oh, you bet.
Okay, so the next one is Lee and myself's report about the Recycle Coach app.
This is fascinating.
It was quite interesting to discover that we got this for free. So, yeah.
I don't even put the garbage out, but I want to download the app too.
Well, the thing that I found the most interesting, and I actually want to share with you guys, is a picture of it that we can. Oh, why is this not working for me here?
I know it's quite often around our house, it's like an Abbott and Costello movie when it comes to recyclables and garbage of who's on first, what's on second, was today, what, no, that was last week. So, everybody's got a smartphone and that's always in their hand.
Yeah. So the thing that's most interesting, my computer's being strange. You can take a picture, like scan something, and it'll tell you where it goes. Looks pretty interesting. We're just at the point now where we're uploading the addresses. So this is nice for new residents moving in because we're getting more coming in. They can type in their new address and it'll tell them their garbage collection day, the recycling day. We also are going to upload the day the water bills are due, the day the taxes are due. So if people want that, they can download that right into their personal reminders. They can get a text message. Yeah. So it does a lot of stuff. And Bonnie, you talked about reminding people about hazardous waste. All that information will be in that app as well. So yeah, hopefully it seems like a win-win. We're going to try it and see, and we can get stats to see on who uses it and who doesn't. But the world is going more and more that they use their phone versus anything else. So
So you're telling me that if Norma takes my picture, it's going to say not recyclable, put it in the bin?
Garbage.
I don't know, sir. Could be.
Depends on your behavior of that day.
Yeah. Yes.
In terms of the printed version, there's still going to be people that don't use the electronic.
We can download
version.
it from there and print it at the office. Yeah. We're going to try and avoid mailing them out if we can, just because it's expensive.
Yeah.
But if people want, they can then, so what'll happen is we'll probably put out a notice. If you want it mailed to you, let us know. It won't have all the information that it currently has.
I just remember when we came on council, how shocked I was at the line on the budget for mailouts. And that's when I believe I brought a motion forward to people to sign up for their water bills and anything they could sign up. Didn't have a huge sign up, but I mean, the years go by, maybe more will come. But maybe this will encourage people to be more electronic friendly and have that when they realize, when I do tell people the cost it is to mail things out times how many residents, they seem to be okay, well, and they kind of take that and take it away and mull it over because it is a huge cost.
Okay. You've read the resolution, did you?
The West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Janet Nethercott Clerk and Lee Gosnell, Manager of Operations and Community Services, Recycle Coach app for information purposes.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Rowe, seconded by Talia, all in favor? That is carried.
So yeah, we're moving right along. So we should be out without a problem in July 1st. And yeah.
Okay, so let's do our administrative monthly report. We're still going to do that.
Sure. Pretty straightforward.
I have to say that our new staff people I'm quite impressed with both of them. But dress.
I had a question if we could have a new, we used to, like, when we began, we had like a layout of all the staff. in their positions. Every time I go in there, there's a new face. I'm not sure who people are sometimes because I met them and with COVID, we weren't always going into the office. Can we at some point, not right now, but have kind of the layout again?
Like, what do you mean?
Of
by
who's
the
under
layout?
what position? So it used to be so-and-so was admin and this person's is, yeah, it was a tree. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that'd be great because yeah, they don't know who we are either. When I go to the dump, he has no clue who I am. He knows my address, but doesn't know who I am. But yeah.
I don't know that the dumb person would know most of the staff either, but.
No, but so when I went in the other day, poor Teresa goes, I go, I'm Teresa, and she goes, Teresa. And then she tried to correct me because she thought I was saying her name wrong, not realizing I'm Teresa. So yeah, it was just,
We've all had that problem.
I didn't know who she was and she didn't know who I was, so it would be great if we each knew each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, they, and Marvel was standing in the foyer at the office the other day. I was in talking to Magda and the phone was answered. And a very, very professional from our end, when that phone was answered. And so my biggest critic came up and said, wow, that was really good. All right. If there are no further questions, we have another resolution.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council receives a report from Magda Badura, CIO Treasurer, and Janet Othercott Clerk, re-administrative monthly reports for April and May 2022 for information purposes.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Rowe, seconded by Cameron. All in favor? Carried.
So this is just a list of some upcoming meetings that I know of. We went into July, just to remind everyone about the night Tri-County Water Board meeting. Other than that, we're moving along. If anyone has anything else to add.
Last meeting, I mentioned the Fair Board or the Housing Stability meeting at 12 noon on the 15th of June. And then I'll add another one of the Fair meeting, which is June 14th at 7.
Anything else?
So do you want to move on to the council reports from committees, sir?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, excellent move.
Okay.
Checking it.
Multitasking, somebody wants to.
I am. Well. Yeah, that'd be
They have
good.
to check their phones.
Wow, this is just. Yeah, go ahead. I gotta go there too. Why don't we do just take a break?
We'll
there?
recess at 11:26 a.m.
I'm trying to get my head around this. Okay, we're ready to rock and roll.
Yep. So council reports from committees.
Hybrid equipment. What's that? Oh, okay, cool.
So what council reports from committees?
Yep. All right. Council reports for committee. Anybody got committee? That's funny.
Just as a follow-up to the 4 counties minutes there, the committee met again on June 6th and we looked at the draft RFP for the new bus and had some discussion around that and thank the staff for working hard on that. And hopefully it will be posted this week. It's up. It's been posted. Great.
Inquiries already.
Good. And so that proposal, we selected a subcommittee to look at that proposal and that will happen and we'll get the order placed. And I do have a report from another subcommittee, which is the Port Glasgow Dance Hall anniversary celebration. And we're meeting tomorrow to set a date for that. We had initially thought about the civic holiday weekend if the fish fry was on, but it's not on, and there may be some dancers using the pavilion anyway. So anyway, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow.
Haven't, lots of people, we haven't got any bookings for reunions or anything that weekend.
I don't believe so. I'm not. I'd have to
Do
look.
you- Do you want, Janet to block that off?
Oh, Emily's involved in the committee and she's the one blocking him off. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Tress.
Just something that came to my attention this week is Diane Arsenovich from the West Elgin Community Health Center has been involved in a lot of community things here, and the Housing Stability Committee that I'm on as a committee of council. She's moving on to a role in St. Thomas. I don't have it in front of me exactly what it was. So her last day is tomorrow, I believe. So just wanted to pass that along to council.
Who's gonna hold the garden?
I don't know. I've got lots of volunteers and lots of people over there doing that. So
I think Joy's been doing that, has she? Joy Cave?
yeah, and Larry Schneider, when he was well enough, he was over there, and a couple other people from the community.
Oh, I haven't been over to see it, so. I gotta make a point of doing that. All right, anything else from reports from committees? I don't know if this is, yeah, I'm not gonna go there. I don't even go there. Yeah, well, it's-
don't think so.
I can report just,
yes,
I can report just on the Lower Thames. I was at a meeting all day yesterday. We had 3 hearings and we couldn't complete them all, so I'm there again next Thursday and again next Friday. So we're pretty busy. There's a lot of hearings coming up because it's a situation where the Lower Thames can't issue permits, but it has to go through a hearing board to give the permits out. So they take a long time, put it that way. Because
you're not gonna have any water in your river, but
if it keeps
it's
going
the
down.
way it is. Wow.
It's really low.
I don't think I've ever seen it so low.
Not this time
You
of
could walk
year.
across it. I don't, there's no dam up there anymore.
Oh, Franchot, no, it's open, isn't it?
It's open. It
Yeah.
hasn't been functional for.
It hasn't worked for a long time.
Yeah, there's the Fanshawe Dam. It's the largest flood control dam in Ontario. It's fully operational.
operating?
The one you're talking about is the Springbank Dam.
Springbank.
Oh,
And that's fully opened. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
open.
actually been repaired, but it's this time of year it'd be in full open.
They might have closed it a bit just to get enough water in the fan shop to have
So the lake is different. The lake is separate than the Springbank Dam, the one they're talking.
I might
Yeah.
close that dam at the lake.
Oh, maybe.
Any other reports from committees? All right, seeing none. Accounts, you want to read the recommendation? there?
That the mayor and treasurer are hereby authorized to sign payment voucher number 6 amounting to $780,758.54 and settlement of general road, water and arena accounts, including electronic fund transfers number 5243 to 5288, online payments number 925 to 935, check numbers 25935 to 25945, and payroll for pay period 11.
Who was seconder? Talia and Rowe.
We do have the money.
Alright.
Just one more thing. Speaking of our staff, I am offloading some of my responsibilities so that AP report will be coming, going forward will be coming from Teresa, our accounts payable clerk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't take long to get her up to speed.
No.
No, excellent. Okay,
I'm
that,
in favor of that.
yeah. All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence, District of Muskoka Annual Emergency Exercise Exemption. Wow. Huh? I think receive and file. City of Cambridge built it right the first time. And file, the voluntary Russian sanction request. Anybody want to be sanctioned from going to Russia? I'll tell you, it's getting crazy. Thing. Municipal Engineers Association, so Brian Lima won that award last year. Town of Blue Mountain voters list changes. I don't think that really applies for us.
I guess in hindsight, as I read this, I thought there were some of my constituents from last 4 years ago that I didn't even know until this year that they were my constituents. By the area, land here and.
They'd be on your voters list still. If they own land, they'd have the right to be on the voters list. You just wouldn't know their address. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's,
This is more Town of Blue. This is
they have a lot of
recreation.
seasonal.
Yeah.
And that's where it is, right? We have some seasonal, but it would more be that, yeah.
Okay, Shadow Minister for Rural Economic Development and Rural Broadband Strategy, fair and robust funding for rural Canada.
We seem to get our fair share of federal, don't we? We seem to get our fair share of federal grants. I wouldn't want to.
I think this is Canada-wide thing. All right, received and filed. Elgin County highlights. Anybody any questions in there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I thought that this. You fell.
No, I'll make a bigger bang.
I thought that Elgin County had discontinued their staff vaccination policy. And that we were
We still have
following them. No,
We still have the homes.
just the homes or
I think
everybody?
No, I think it's just the homes.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if there's a.
Just the way it was worded, it sounded like it was all staff and I thought, weren't we following their lead with our staff?
We didn't this time when it comes to vaccination policy.
Oh.
I was speaking with Jeff Yurg yesterday and he has people coming in to get their first vaccination.
Amazing. They were just waiting for him to come back to work.
Yeah.
He gave vaccines all along though.
Yeah, that's true.
He was one of the big
Yeah.
volunteers for vaccine clinic.
He looked absolutely wonderful yesterday. I mean, millstone's been lifted from his neck and. Okay, for Counties Foundation, I guess we had a pretty good go around with them this morning.
I was gonna suggest, I'm sorry, if I could, maybe we could look around about September at what we have left in our grants to consider that donation, just so put it on the parking lot so we don't forget about it. Because otherwise.
23,000. 23,000.
Oh, as of today.
Do we? I just think it would be wise to just wait and see what our community is requesting and if they're gonna submit a grant application too, then that'll put it.
Yeah. It's
that'll
gotta.
Put it in that parking lot too, yeah.
Okay, correspondence, don't need a resolution for that.
No.
Okay, council inquiries, announcements, notice of motion. And statements and inquiries by councilors.
As you know, next June 15th, so next Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day that is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I'm on a local committee for Elder Abuse Elgin. And you may have seen on my social media, but yes, we are making the rounds of all of the political leaders in our area. So we did visit Warden French and Mayor Preston, and we will be visiting our new MPP when his office is set up, and Karen when she gets back from her duties, to introduce a new document that is been created by the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. And so it's Canada-wide, and it is a roadmap as to how we can properly address elder abuse prevention. The statistics are clear. In West Elgin, we have 10% of our seniors who are being abused. So that's about 50 seniors here just in our small community that are experiencing physical abuse or emotional abuse or financial abuse. And so we just encourage everybody to try to educate yourself and think about it as it's a whole society problem. It's not just a healthcare problem, and it's not just a criminal problem. It's something that everybody can help to address. So that's kind of what we're trying to bring forward with this Future Us document. So thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for what your time you're putting in on this.
That's a good cause.
Very important for us. Yeah.
Primarily family members that are abused. With COVID, we've seen a real uptick in it because, of course, people are struggling more for money and bank. And oh, well, if she doesn't have money left for groceries or her drugs, well, be mine someday, so I'll just take it now. Yes. Anyway, every neighbor can help if they see someone struggling, just talking with them. You don't have to solve their problem, just let them know they're not alone. That was very, very helpful.
And I think we're going to be for some interesting times. One of the indicators that I have, and for any of you have been by any garden centers anywhere, there is tons and tons and tons of flowers left over. And I think it's probably that people have made the decision between groceries and gas, and outside is going to sit for a while. I couldn't believe it, like Kroll's and Wayne's and St. Thomas at Cannondale's yesterday. There was just, usually by this time of year, you want a red geranium, you're out of luck.
You're pretty sold out, yeah.
Yeah, but their stuff is everywhere, so. Interesting times are coming. All right, let's do some bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Just before we get too much farther, I just wanted to, I'm not sure if council noticed, we wanted to let you know that we did raise the pride flag as of June 1st because we have a proclamation for pride. So it is on our community flagpole and will remain up this month.
I put the Union Jack up for the Queen.
That would have been a good idea. Never thought of that one. So we'll move to bylaws then. You're ready?
Bylaws, please.
So the bylaw 2022-27 being a bylaw to provide for the Fleming drain in the municipality be read for a third and final time.
For a seconder, moved by Rowe, seconded by Leatham. You gonna cackle?
Okay,
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
the bylaw 2022 being about -28 being a bylaw to provide for the schedules of assessments for the Axford, or the updated schedules of assessments for the Axford drain in the municipality of West Elgin be read for a third and final time.
For a seconder. Laffy and Laffy. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll tell you, hey, and Cameron, all in favor? Carried.
So that the council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby proceed into closed session at 11:53 a.m. Under section 239(2)B, consideration will be given to matters that pertain to personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees.
For a seconder, Talia and Leatham, all in favor?
Okay, just give me one moment.
Sure.
I'm gonna remind Jeff we're back and
Okay, and Leatham, all in favor? That is carried. Report out of closed.
the report out of closed session at 1:12 p.m. is that West Elgin Council hereby directs staff to proceed with the termination of seasonal trailer lease for lots identified in the closed session report.
Mover and seconder. Cameron and Talia, all in favor? That is carried.
Okay, and that we're at the confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2022-39 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held on June 9th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Talia and Rowe, all in favor? Carried.
So now we're at adjournment. So at 1:13 PM, the Council of the Municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 1:13 PM to meet again at 9:30 AM on June 23rd, 2022 at the call of the chair.
Mover and seconder. Cameron and Leatham, all in favor. Carried.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. That was
Painful times.
you should have been with me yesterday.